Hello everyone and welcome back. In this new lesson we're going to continue the refactoring of our application into reactive style, and this time we're going to talk about data modification operations. At this point in the course, our application will still remain fully stateless. No state management is being done for the moment. Later on, we're going to see how to add state management techniques in order to improve the user experience. Right now, let's take a look at what a data modification operation will look like without any state management involved. So we have here a list of courses, and we also have here an edit button that will open a new component, which is going to be the edit course dialog that allows us to change the data of a given component. Let's have a look at what this component looks like. Using Command Shift O, I'm going to look for the course dialog component. And here we have it on the screen. So as we can see here on the template, this corresponds to a material dialog with a form field with a few different fields. We have here the course description, the course category, which is a drop-down with multiple options. And we also have here a date, and we have here a description field. At the bottom here we have two buttons. We have the close button and we have the save button. Let's have a look at the implementation of this logic here. So as we can see, the part where we are saving the data in our backend is not yet implemented. That's what we're going to take care of in these next few lessons. And we can also see the rest of the component here on the screen. If we have a look at it, we can see that we are defining here a form group with the multiple form fields that we see here on the screen. And we can also see that we are receiving here via the constructor the course that is getting edited. So that is why we managed to display here, for example, the title of the course and the current values of each property of the course. This data is being passed on to the course dialog via the course card list component. If we open it here, we are going to see that whenever the user clicks here on the edit button, which corresponds to this button here, whenever this button gets clicked, this logic here, edit course, is going to get triggered. And here, using the material dialog service, we have opened a dialog containing the course dialog component. We can see that the course is being passed as an input via the data property, and then the course data is available in our course dialog component via this injectable here. Now let's take care of saving the course data changes to the backend whenever we click here on the save button. So in order to save the data to the backend, we're going to be using again the courses service. So let's go ahead and inject it here. The courses service is going to contain a new method that is going to be called save course, and this method is going to take in a couple of arguments. So the first argument is going to be the course identifier that uniquely identifies the course that we want to modify. The second argument is going to be the changes that we want to apply to the course. We're going to be defining this changes object as being a partial course. This way, if we only want to change one property or multiple properties of the course, we can pass those changes here using the changes property without having to provide a complete course instance. This way, we will still have here type safety in our function. Now the return type of this function is going to be, as usual, an observable, but this is going to be an observable of type any. So the response that we are returning here does not have any predefined type. So the observable is going to emit one value and it will complete if the request is successful, and it's going to error out if the HTTP request to save the course data errors out. Let's now implement the body of the save course method. So we are going to be using again the Angular HTTP client, and this time around, in order to perform a data modification operation, we're going to be doing an HTTP put call. We're going to be accessing the following URL. We're going to access /API /courses, and here we're going to access a particular course by adding the course ID to our HTTP path. Next, as the body of our HTTP put call, we are going to pass in our course changes. Just like the case of the load all courses observable, also here we want to avoid that the returned observable triggers accidentally multiple HTTP put calls if it gets subscribed to multiple times. So we are going to use here the RxJS pipe syntax, and we are going to again apply here the share replay operator. And with this we have completed the implementation of the save course method, which is now ready to use. Let's switch here to the course dialog and let's call this new method. We're going to access courses service, we're going to call save course, we're going to pass in here the identifier of the course that we want to modify, and the second argument is going to be the changes that we want to do to the course object. In this case, let's pass in here the changes constant that we have defined here, which corresponds to the current value of the form containing all the latest values for every property. Let's pass in here changes, and let's now take the returned observable and let's subscribe to it. Let's remember, if we don't subscribe to this observable, nothing will happen and the HTTP put call will not get triggered. Whenever we get back here a value emitted, we are going to go ahead and we are going to close the dialog that we see here on the screen. Let's access here the material dialog reference instance that gives us a reference to the dialog that just got opened. We got it here injected via the constructor, and here we are going to be calling the close method. In order to distinguish this call to close here from the call that we are doing here whenever we click on the close button, we are going to take the value emitted by this observable and we are going to pass it here to the close call. The presence of this value is going to allow us to distinguish between the case where we have closed the dialog without modifying the course and the case where we close the material dialog after a successful save. Going back here to the course card list component where the dialog is getting opened, we are going to see that here, whenever we open the dialog, we get back a dialog reference. Using the dialog reference, we are going to be able to obtain here an after closed observable. This observable is going to emit values whenever the dialog gets closed. So let's go ahead and subscribe to it in order to get notified whenever the dialog gets closed. Now here we want to take into consideration only the cases when the dialog was closed after a successful save. So whenever a successful save occurred, we want this presentational component to be emitting a new output event that will inform the rest of the application that the course data has changed. Let's then go ahead and define here a new component output. We're going to call it courses changed, and we're going to make this a new Angular event emitter. Let's annotate this property with the output decorator. Now here in the subscription to the after closed observable, we are going to be filtering out only the cases that correspond to successful saves. So as we have seen, this dialog is going to emit a value to this observable only in the case of a successful save. Let's then take into consideration only the cases where a value was emitted when the dialog was closed. So here we will be on the presence of successful course saves. Now, whenever a course was successfully saved, we want to trigger this event and inform the rest of the application that the course data has been modified. For that, we're going to be using the RxJS tap operator. So the tap operator is used for producing side effects. If we want to do something like, for example, to write in local storage or to do any other side effect outside of the observable chain, for that we should use the tap operator. Here, as a side effect, we are going to call the courses changed output event emitter and we're going to emit a new event. Let's now go back to the home component and see how this new event is going to get used. So whenever we perform a successful save, this component, the home component, needs to somehow update the data that we see here on the screen. So for example, if using the edit course dialog, we change the title here of the course, whenever we click here on save, that change should be reflected here on the screen. Now, because this version of our application is still fully stateless, the only way to do that is to reload our list of courses from the backend in order to get back the latest version of each course. This means that whenever the courses changed output event gets emitted, we are going to need to reload all our courses. The same thing is going to need to happen if some of the courses of the advanced courses list gets triggered. So let's go ahead and detect also this event. So now, how do we reload all the courses from our application? Going back to our home component, we are going to see that we need to again create a new HTTP observable using load all courses, and we need to pass it again to our template so that the async pipe can subscribe to the new observable, so that a new HTTP request gets triggered, and so that the new data coming from the server gets displayed on the screen. So the way that we're going to do that is to refactor this logic here from ng on init into a new method called reload courses. To this method, we are going to paste this logic that we have defined here on ng on init, and now on ng on init we are going to simply call reload courses. Now it's important that we never call ng on init directly from anywhere in our component and also from the template itself. ng on init is meant to be called by the Angular framework only and not by application code. Now that we have here a method that allows us to reload all the courses, we can now reuse it here from the template. Let's call it here whenever courses changed gets emitted here on the beginners courses list, and let's do the same here for the advanced courses list. Let's now try out this new version of our application. We're going to switch here to a larger window so that we can see the HTTP requests. Let's click here on Edit Course and let's change here the title of the course. Let's say that it's the Reactive Angular course with RxJS, just to make it a little bit different. Let's also change the category of the course from beginner to advanced, and let's click on save and keep an eye here on the network tab. So we have clicked here on save. We have done here a request to the backend, a put call containing here the new data that we have defined in our dialog. We can see here the new title, Reactive Angular course with RxJS. You can see that the dialog has closed, and we can see here a new HTTP GET request that got the new data from the backend. Now we can see that the Reactive Angular course has been removed here from the beginners tab, and it has been moved here to the advanced tab. We can see that this took a couple of seconds because our call to our HTTP backend is not immediate. There is a certain delay in our HTTP service that made our application seem not very responsive for a couple of seconds. Let's quickly see this again in action. I'm going to edit the course again. I'm going to remove the different title of the course, and I'm going to switch the course back to the beginner category. Let's click on save and keep an eye here on the network log. So as you can see, the save is still ongoing, and when the save is completed, we got here the new data via another HTTP GET request, and the Reactive Angular course is now back to the beginners tab as expected. And with this, we have finished the stateless implementation of our data modification logic. Let's now continue the implementation of our application in reactive style. As we have seen, whenever the save data operation is ongoing, there is a slight delay. We would like to be able to show the user a loading indicator so that the user knows that the save operation is still ongoing. So before adding any state management capabilities to our application, let's first implement our loading indicator logic in reactive style.